Hi. So where we left off was I did the gradient mesh for the top of this lamp. And then I started to put in a shape um, to represent what's going on here. And so I did a little playing with effects, but ran out of time in that video. But I want to show you some other tools as well. I want to take a look at this for a moment as well and see over here the way you get this sharp edge here to really give the contour of what's going on here. So I'm going to work with a regular gradient for that. And then these little dots here, I'm going to work with radial gradients. So I have moved over here and I've enlarged this. So you see that I created these circles that are a little squished for each one of these. They get smaller as they recede here, and I've put some touches onto two of these already. So I am going to put this up here and demonstrate how to do a gradient with this. So I click on my gradient. It's black and white right now. If I click on it, you see the black spot and the white spot, and you can just click under it to add to it, and you can shift them back and forth, and shift this part here will adjust the gradient. This is set for a linear gradient right now, but we want to do a radial gradient. So I'm going to switch that, and you notice I've got dark around the outside and it's bright on the inside. But what I've got here, it's a bit white over, not white, but lighter over here, and then it gets darker on this side. So I want to play with some tools to get this just right. First thing I'm going to do here is actually get rid of that outline and then go back to this gradient here, and I want to, sorry about that, adjust the colors. Okay, adjust the colors. So the way you do that is you can click on the dot, you get the eyedropper highlights, and you can go with the eyedropper and pick a color. So now you see I also got this funky contraption here at the same time. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to use to get a medium color, and then I don't need this. Whoops, I think I deleted the wrong one. I'm going to get a medium value, and then I'm going to click on this and get a darker value. Okay, so I've got these different values going on here, so I can click on this and I can, click and pull and distort a shape just like any regular shape, but there's so much other stuff going on here. To go in and get that bar to show up, you can hit Edit Gradient. So it automatically appeared, but if I unclick like I did, unclick, you can go to Edit Gradient and it shows up. I'm going to zoom in here a bit. So it's so a number of things can happen. You can click and pull, which pulls out the, it's subtle, but what it's really doing, it's pulling out the gradient, so it's becoming much less contrast. If I push it way in, you see you're getting the bands more. The other thing I can do is if I pull out a little bit, notice I get this rotation, so I can turn that gradient this way. And then there are points here where I can slide. So this is really imitating what we've got here. So I can slide these points in here or slide them on here, okay? So now the other thing I want to do is actually pull this gradient. So I'm pulling this black, which was a center point, and I'm pulling it down to get that gradient off center. And then I'm going to pull up here to expand the gradient. So these two endpoints are actually doing something a little bit different. One is bringing the center point of that gradient. See, it's the center point. So it's bringing the center point off center, and then the other one is expanding the range of the gradient. So it's making it less, the transition less sharp. So what I'm starting to get here, down, is exactly what I'm starting to get over here, lighter and then darker on this end. I may pull out just a little bit more. And I'm realizing now that this really should be a bit darker so I can get some contrast. So I can click on this and go, I can see when this is zoomed in, I can see there's a little bit darker spot here. So I'm going to click on that darker spot. And so I like what's happening there. It's giving me more of a range in there. So again, let me go back to edit, and I'm going to pull this a little wider there. And then I'm going to hit and say, okay, that's pretty good. So now the other piece here is I want to add these highlights. So I can go and just get a shape. So I've got a lip shape here. It's picked up that gradient that I have just because that's what was left. But what I really want to do is make this white. So I am going to go in and click and make that white. I still have the gradient. Sorry, what's happening here? Click on that top, grab the white. I'm being challenged here. Click, and let me go to the picker here again. White. Okay, there we go. So now I can go into the effects like I showed you at the other moment, and I am going to feather to soften this, okay? One of the things I did was enlarge this quite a bit because I was doing it at the smaller size over here, and the tools weren't working well because that expansion of points, it was so close. How do I explain this? I'm explaining it poorly. What I'm trying to say is, let me just do it. If I have a teeny tiny dot, there's only a few points in there. So it's not going to, points meaning size, not clicker points. So with this one, when I go to Effects, Stylize, and go to Feather, you can see that from 1 point to 2 points. So that's what I'm saying. The size, if this were much larger, the change going from 1 point to 2 points would be really subtle. I don't know if what I'm saying what's making sense, but hopefully it is. So it's really important that you have enough of a size to work with. So there is shape right there. Actually, I zoomed in. I'm supposed to be zooming in on this one over here. Where am I? I zoomed in and, okay. I'm working on this one over here. I don't even remember what I was working on. At any rate, we need a dot over here, and we need a dot on this one. So let's play with this. This dot here, if we're looking at this, is too big. I'm going to shrink that down, but I'm going to copy it and paste it and make it this one, and I'm going to spread that out a little bit, and I'm going to play with the opacity of it to lighten it so it's not such a contrast. So you see there's some differences there. Now the other thing is the shape. This is too round, so I'm going to play with that, but I can also go in and remember that this is a handles, a curve, that I can go and totally change that curve as well. Okay, so I have been using the picker all this time. I am going to stop and go to another video that's going to be about working with the swatch palette in case you want to set up some swatches instead of using the picker. Okay, so that's the end of this video.